Okay, so now, before we break for coffee, we've got another slightly unusual short element to the program, a book launch. And the book that we're going to be talking about for the next 15 minutes or so is this one. There's a copy at the registration desk if you want to actually flick through. It's called Ways of World Knowing, Local Knowledge, Coastal Communities, and Equitable Ocean Governance. And it's recently been published, and we're very lucky to have, fingers crossed, the 3 editors of this book online with us now to tell us more about it. The book is sent against the backdrop of the BBNJ agreement, which makes it so relevant to this meeting. It's the first of its kind to investigate a number of interrelated philosophical and legal issues surrounding local knowledge with a focus on coastal communities using some very interesting case studies from all around the world. So let us see, do we have our 3 online editors? I'm hoping to be True.
Hi.
Yep. Oh, hello.
Hello.
We can't yet. We can see you now. Hi.
Hi, I'm Miley.
So, okay, the 3 people you can. Can you hear me okay still? Yeah. Okay, I was just going to tell everybody who you are. You will recognize Marcel Jaspers down there, as Marcel has already been contributing to panel 2. We're also delighted to be joined by Michaela Massimi, who is Professor of Philosophy of Science at the University of Edinburgh. Hi, Michaela. And also Abe E.L. Brown, who is Professor of Intellectual Property Law at the University of Aberdeen. So I just want to congratulate you all on the publication of the book, and I will hand over to you now for the next 10 minutes or so to discuss and present to our audience here and online. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hermione. Can you hear us okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much for the very kind introduction, and many thanks also to Maura Roberts, Katie Brown, and all the organizers for allowing us to very briefly present our co-edited volume, Ways of World Knowing, that, as Hermione just announced, is now out with Oxford University Press. So we just want to give you a very brief introduction to the volume. It's really a volume that originates from a Royal Society of Edinburgh pilot project, a network award called Ocean and Us, that ran in 2023-25 and was preceded by another Royal Society of Edinburgh Salter workshop grant in 2022-23. And that's how really we started this collaboration. So as Hermione was explaining, I'm actually a philosopher of science here at the University of Edinburgh. And my colleagues don't need an introduction, know very well both Marcel Jasper and Abby Brown from University of Aberdeen. So this is an overview of the table of content of the book that includes 8 chapters written really by a cross-disciplinary range of scholars spanning across philosophy of science, law and marine sciences. And really we try to catalyze attention on the central topics about how to better integrate ways of knowing of local coastal communities into equitable ocean governance, which is obviously an important topic for the BBNJ implementation. So we're very grateful to all the wonderful authors that contributed a chapter to this volume. I want to say special thanks to Leandra Gonçalves, that I believe must be there somewhere in the audience, and I think is speaking tomorrow, and contributed a volume with Vitor Renck and other colleagues from Brazil. So in what followed, just very briefly, we decided to just give a very short introduction to the overarching theme, which we explored in our chapter 2, which you can download for free as open access from the Oxford University Press website. Before we kind of plunge into the legal aspect of the role of local knowledge for the BBNJ implementation. So as a philosopher of science, I'm interested in general questions about the nature of knowledge, scientific knowledge, and local knowledge. What is so special about local knowledge and local ways of knowing, especially in the ocean context when it comes to local coastal communities. So one of the themes really of the book is that very often historically, one of the reasons why probably local knowledge has often been not much discussed in the scientific context is because we don't really have necessarily very clear understanding about the epistemic role and nature and value of varieties of ways of knowing. And so we hope this volume takes some first preliminary steps in addressing those important questions. And so very broadly, our take is that really we mean different things by local knowledge depending on which coastal community, in which part of the world, in which geopolitical context we're looking at. So at a very broad level, when we talk about local knowledge, often what we mean are variety of situated knowledge. So knowledge that is typical of a particular coastal community, but it's really knowledge of a practice. So the example that we give in the chapter is from Scotland, where we're all based, looking at the Hebridean crofter communities of past century and their practice of kelp making, cutting and drying and burning seaweed for producing ashes rich in soda that were used in the glass manufacture, for example. Now, this form of local knowledge, which is what we call place-bound knowledge, obviously is entangled with cultural tradition in Gaelic crofting communities, but it's also the sort of knowledge of a practice that you find in other communities. You find it, for example, in Galicia, in Spain. So it's very different in nature from other ways of thinking about local knowledge, which is probably more familiar to those of you that work on the BBNJ and on indigenous science, what sometimes is called the place-based knowledge. So by place-based knowledge, often what's referred to is really knowledge that is culturally identifying for particular communities. So in the book, in the chapter, we give as an example the knowledge of women Jeju diver in South Korea, that is recognized part of the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage. So this is not just a knowledge of a particular practice, the practice of diving or kelp making, but it's a knowledge that is entangled with a worldview, where, for example, sea turtles are regarded as sacred animals in a Jeju cosmogony. So there's something really special and unique that is culturally identifying for that community and is very different from the example that we just gave about Hebridean crofting. And then at the third general level, what sometimes people mean by local knowledge is what we call the place index knowledge. It's just a knowledge of a spatio-temporally located entity here and now. So it could be this sea cucumber here and now in this piece of the ocean floor, for example. So there is nothing really particularly special about this further notion of local knowledge, as it can be, for example, used in a, marine biodiscovery example. And one of the themes of the book is that if we use the term local knowledge by trading on the ambiguity that the term contains, often we risk perpetuating types of injustices in how we treat local ways of knowing that sits outside scientific canons and narratives. And this is something that I had addressed in my book, where I talk about varieties of epistemic injustice called the severing and trademarking. And we think this is all important for the BBNJ implementation, as my colleague Abe Brown now is going to explain next. So over to you, Abe. Abe, can you see me? Or can you hear me?
Thank you so much, Michaela.
Where
is Abe?
Have I? Okay.
I'm not sure whether we have lost a connection to Abe.
Still backstage.
Hang on.
Here I am, apparently.
Okay. Some problem. Okay. Abe, I think you should go next. So I have your slides up. Sorry, I was
I'll go back now, so if you could get my slides.
I can't control the slides myself. There you
That
go.
would be great. Fantastic. Thank you. So very, very excited to be here. As those of you in the room will know, delighted to see lots of familiar faces. There are some opportunities for exploring the questions of related knowledge, fairness, equity, which Michaela has been touching on. There are many, many references in the agreement to fair and equitable benefit sharing. There are some, those we know I'm enthusiastic about this, some but perhaps not enough references to intellectual property. Some would say too many. We have references to marine biodiversity practices, and it was just so exciting. Can I join everyone else in saying how wonderful it was to be on link with the vessel just now? We see references in the agreement to marine scientific practice, and that was touched on earlier today. And we also see reference to traditional knowledge, and I would join with others saying it's fantastic to see that being discussed tomorrow. But the agreement doesn't actually talk about local knowledge per se, certainly not in the context that Michaela was talking about. And it doesn't engage directly, for pretty understandable reasons, that intersection between freedom of the high seas, common heritage of humankind, still really out there. We've been working around it on that pragmatic level, which hopefully will continue to be extremely effective. We have one reference to patents, nothing in relation to other IP rights, which again, I think we need to continue to navigate around. And there's a question which I know will be picked up. Julie and other colleagues will be doing that later on. Links with WIPO, who are discussing right now how that's going to work and how we intersect with other agreements. But I think the agreement gives us such fantastic potential to incorporate this new approach to local knowledge into ocean governance. We can build a new non-exploitative braided approach. And Marcel is going to tell us a little bit more about exactly how we thought that through with a particular focus on the ocean. Marcel, can you... Oh.
As soon as I stand up here, it's going to be sorted. Here we go. Oh, Marcel, you're with us now. Thank you.
Okay, hi there. I guess you can hear me now, can you, in the room?
Yes, we can.
It's hard to know. Okay, so this fictional case study is based on a number of other examples where such things have happened. In this case, we imagine a coastal community that has traditional navigation and uses that to find a seamount on which they have been harvesting sea cucumbers for, let's say, centuries. And they've been using that to treat stiffness in joints, for instance. At the same time, the same sea cucumber is discovered in a bioprospecting expedition, which then leads to the discovery of compounds that have effect in animal against arthritis. That compound is patented, tested, and there is then communication typically through publication. But at the same time, a researcher that investigates traditional knowledge is carrying out an ethnobotanical study. And it's this juxtaposition of these parallel roads to the same knowledge that then causes difficulty in terms of how this might be interpreted, how it might be used, and how the benefit sharing might occur. So again, we imagine this in the chapter, and I think it's a useful example of how complex such issues can get and the kind of consideration from both philosophical and intellectual property sides you need to consider when you're dealing with these situations. So again, I hope it's useful as a way to prompt thinking about how traditional knowledge is included in the treaty and how it should be thought about as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much to all of our editors. There's your final slide. Thank you very much. I think, unfortunately, we lost Michaela through a computer issue. But Abe and Marcel, just before we wrap up here, are there any final comments you would like to make? We've got Michaela back. So just an opportunity for final comments from the three of you, please.
I think the discussions tomorrow and on Thursday about the committees, the structures, membership, the culture of the negotiation and the implementation, building on the negotiation are so very, very important. So I'm really jealous and good luck in building the path forward. Thanks.
Okay.
Marcel, would you like to say some final words, please?
Sorry, I'm having some problem. I don't know whether you can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Because I can't hear you, and I keep on dropping the audio, so apologies. I had to reboot several times for some reason, although we did the test yesterday and it was working. But I just want to thank you, really thank you once again for having us and for allowing us to briefly present our book. And we wish you a very productive meeting. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. And Marcel, would you like to finish off? I'm not sure whether you can hear me or not.
I can hear you fine. Yes, I mean, for me, read the book, enjoy the conference.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? We can do a whole thing perfectly in a ship in the middle of the South Atlantic, but 3 people in Scotland, bit tricky. Anyway, so we are nearly at another lovely coffee break. But before you go anywhere, we're now entering